The story of the F-14 Tomcat began in the uncertainty of the late 1960s, when the United States Navy urgently needed a new fighter capable of defending carrier groups across vast stretches of ocean. The world was changing fast, and Cold War tensions demanded an aircraft with reach, speed, and firepower unlike anything that had come before. Earlier projects had failed, budgets had shifted, and technology had outpaced existing designs. The Navy needed something powerful enough to intercept Soviet bombers long before they could threaten the fleet. The existing aircraft simply lacked the range and radar required for such missions. The Navy had originally been tied to the F-111B, a heavy, troubled aircraft meant to satisfy both Air Force and Navy requirements. It was clear almost immediately that the design was unsuited for carrier operations. It was too heavy, too sluggish, and too compromised by attempts to merge two very different missions into one airframe. Test flights raised concerns, carrier trials confirmed them, and the program collapsed. The Navy needed a new direction, and it needed it quickly. Grumman, a company already respected for its long history of naval fighters, stepped forward with a new proposal. Their designers envisioned a twin-engine, twin-seat aircraft that would combine long-range interception with the agility required for close combat. The design included something revolutionary: variable sweep wings that could extend for slow-speed handling during landing and sweep back for high-speed flight. This gave the Tomcat the ability to move from controlled carrier approaches to fast interceptions without sacrificing stability. The engines chosen initially were the Pratt & Whitney TF-30s, engines that would later create challenges but were at the time the best available option to meet the Navy's timeline. With these engines, along with new radar and missile technology, the Tomcat began to take shape. The aircraft incorporated a massive nose designed to house the AWG-9 radar, the most advanced air intercept radar ever fitted to a fighter. This system could track multiple targets at long range, identifying threats far beyond visual distance. The Tomcat also carried the AIM-54 Phoenix missile, a weapon with extraordinary reach. Designed to destroy incoming bombers before they could launch attacks, the Phoenix could track and engage targets over vast distances. Together with the AWG-9, it gave the Tomcat a capability unmatched by any other fighter of its time. These systems turned the aircraft into a guardian of the fleet, able to reach out and engage threats long before they became deadly. In December 1970, the F-14 took to the air for the first time. Its maiden flight revealed an aircraft that handled smoothly, responding well to the pilot's controls even under demanding conditions. Early tests showed that the airframe was robust, agile, and capable of performing the wide range of missions expected of it. The variable sweep wings worked exactly as intended, allowing the aircraft to remain stable during slow-speed carrier tests while still delivering the performance needed for high-speed operations. Carrier trials began soon after, and the Tomcat proved it could handle the harsh environment of deck operations. Its landing gear absorbed the brutal impact of carrier landings, and the aircraft maintained control during catapult launches. The design demonstrated the balance between strength and agility, showing that Grumman had created something unique. As testing continued, confidence in the Tomcat grew. Crews learned its systems, maintenance teams mastered its mechanisms, and the Navy prepared for full deployment. By 1973, the Tomcat was ready for operational service. Its arrival marked a turning point for naval aviation, giving carrier groups a fighter capable of engaging threats at every stage of a mission. With its powerful radar, advanced missile system, and impressive range, the F-14 became the centerpiece of fleet defense. Pilots admired its handling, Radar officers respected its capabilities, and deck crews recognized its importance. The Tomcat was more than a new aircraft. It was the beginning of a new era in naval air power. It was large, demanding, and complex, but it offered something the Navy had long needed: a fighter built not from compromise, but from purpose. Its entry into service signaled a new level of readiness, and its reputation grew as squadrons mastered the aircraft and learned just how capable it truly was. As the F-14 entered active service, the Navy quickly discovered that it was not simply an upgrade, but a complete transformation of fleet defense. Carrier groups now had a fighter that could launch fast, climb hard, and detect threats at distances no earlier aircraft could approach. The AWG-9 radar allowed radar officers to track multiple potential enemies at once, monitoring the shifting picture of airspace far beyond the horizon. This capability was critical because the Cold War oceans had become increasingly crowded with long-range Soviet bombers and reconnaissance aircraft probing carrier groups. The Tomcat was designed to intercept these threats before they could launch their own standoff weapons. When pilots pushed the throttles forward and the engines roared into afterburner, the F-14 surged ahead with a force that made its size seem irrelevant. Its swept wings locked tight, its nose pointed high, and the jet carved upward through the sky with the confidence of a machine built for the edge of battle. Pilots trained relentlessly to master the aircraft's combination of speed, maneuverability, and advanced systems. They practiced intercept profiles day and night, studying how to approach incoming bombers under different conditions: high altitude, low altitude, head-on, or from the side. Each intercept demanded precise coordination between pilot and radar intercept officer. Inside the rear cockpit, the RIO managed radar modes, tracked targets, sorted friend from foe, and prepared missile solutions. Many pilots later said the Tomcat was not a single-seat aircraft by nature. Its complexity required two minds working as one. The relationship between pilot and RIO became one of the most critical elements of successful operations. Trust was absolute, because in a high-speed intercept, half a second lost could be the difference between positioning for a shot or losing the opportunity entirely. Training flights often simulated real threats. Soviet Tu-95 Bears and maritime reconnaissance aircraft regularly tested the boundaries of international airspace, and Tomcats were routinely launched to intercept. These encounters were tense but controlled, a silent conversation conducted through radio silence, wing dips, and camera lenses. The Tomcat would pull alongside the massive bomber, its swept wings gleaming in the sun, while the Soviet crew stared back through their windows. Photos were taken, identification confirmed, and the message delivered. The carrier group was not unprotected. Yet even in these controlled intercepts, danger was never far. The ocean below was unforgiving, the speeds high, and the margin for error razor-thin. Mechanical failures, sudden weather shifts, or miscommunications could escalate an apparently routine mission into a crisis. Crews understood the stakes. Every launch, every intercept, every return to the moving deck demanded discipline and precision. Carrier operations themselves were among the most dangerous elements of naval aviation. Landing an F-14 at night, with the deck pitching beneath it, required skill bordering on instinct. The aircraft approached with wings fully spread, engines carefully balanced, tail hook lowered, and the pilot making constant micro-corrections. A single misjudgment could slam the jet into the water or scatter debris across the deck. Deck crews worked with intense focus, guiding the aircraft into position, clearing engines, and preparing for the next launch cycle. The Tomcat's arrival and departure became familiar rhythms of life aboard the carrier, but never routines taken lightly. Despite its size, pilots soon discovered the F-14 handled remarkably well in close combat. Though built for long-range interception, the aircraft demonstrated strong agility, high lift from its wings, and a stable gun platform. Training dogfights showed that the Tomcat could outmaneuver many of its contemporaries, especially when flown by experienced hands. The variable sweep wings gave it a unique advantage, allowing rapid transitions between high-speed engagements and tighter turning fights. Pilots learned to exploit these characteristics, pushing the aircraft harder each year as new tactics emerged. The Tomcat quickly gained a reputation not just as a long-range defender, but as a formidable dogfighter. Squad training emphasized mastering the aircraft's strengths while compensating for the limitations of its engines, which could be temperamental under high angles of attack. Every pilot knew the risks, yet they embraced the challenge. With every flight, the Tomcat proved it was far more than a carrier interceptor. It was becoming a symbol of American air power. As the Tomcat matured within the fleet, its reputation grew not only from training missions, but from the constant pressure of real-world encounters during the height of the Cold War. The Pacific and the North Atlantic became the F-14's hunting ground, regions where Soviet long-range aircraft pushed boundaries and tested American resolve. Each encounter demanded absolute professionalism. These were not combat missions, but neither were they peaceful. They were careful dances between superpowers, conducted through formation changes, slow rolls, and steady glances from cockpit windows. The Tomcat often arrived first, intercepting incoming Soviet aircraft long before they reached the carrier group. Its radar reached out across the ocean, detecting threats at distances that stunned visiting observers. The Soviet crews recognized the aircraft instantly. When the Tomcat pulled alongside a bear or a badger, the message was unmistakable. The fleet was protected. These intercepts sharpened skill and discipline, but they also revealed challenges. The Tomcat's TF-30 engines, originally designed for a different aircraft, had limitations. At high angles of attack or during rapid throttle changes, they could stall, a frightening event in a twin-engine fighter. Pilots learned to manage the engines with finesse, avoiding abrupt power shifts and respecting the aircraft's boundaries. Despite these quirks, the Tomcat proved strong and reliable. Maintenance crews gained deep familiarity with its systems, performing long hours of inspection and repair to keep each jet ready for launch. The bond between aircrew and maintainers became essential. The aircraft was powerful, but it demanded respect from everyone who touched it. Throughout the late 70s and early 80s, squadrons refined tactics that harnessed the Tomcat's strengths. Combined training with surface ships, airborne early warning aircraft, and electronic warfare units created layered defenses around carrier groups. In these integrated environments, the Tomcat played the leading role. Its radar reach extended the fleet's eyes hundreds of miles. Its speed allowed it to intercept threats before they grew dangerous. Its presence alone discouraged aggressive movements from rival aircraft. Pilots and radar officers practiced multi-aircraft coordination, simulated large-scale engagements, and prepared for the possibility of real conflict in international airspace. But the Tomcat's story was not complete without discussing the Gulf of Sidra, where rising tensions in the Mediterranean pushed American and Libyan forces into direct confrontation. The region had simmered with disputes over airspace boundaries, and both sides operated with heightened alertness. Tomcat crews flew regular patrols, monitoring Libyan fighters that often shadowed them. These missions carried real risk. Split-second decisions could shift a standoff into open conflict. Pilots studied enemy tactics, reviewed rules of engagement, and trained for the precise moment when defensive actions might be required. The Mediterranean patrols showcased the Tomcat's abilities. Its radar allowed crews to identify approaching fighters long before visual contact. Its speed carried it quickly to potential threats. Its variable sweep wings gave it stability during high-speed sprints and maneuverability when required. Deck crews launched Tomcats with practiced efficiency, keeping aircraft ready for immediate response. Every sailor, technician, and aviator contributed to a chain of readiness that made the carrier group a formidable presence at sea. By the early 80s, the aircraft had become iconic. Its silhouette, a wide front profile, twin tails, and sweeping wings, was instantly recognizable. Recruits entering naval aviation dreamed of flying it. Pilots spoke of its presence, its authority, the way the cockpit framed the sky in a way few other jets could match. The Tomcat was demanding but rewarding. It punished mistakes but amplified skill. In squadron ready rooms, stories circulated about high-G turns, fuel-critical recoveries, and nights where landing conditions pushed even experienced aviators to their limits. Operational deployments continued, each one adding to the aircraft's legacy. Whether stationed in the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, or the Mediterranean, Tomcats formed the shield around the carrier. They launched in darkness, recovered in rough seas, and patrolled thousands of miles from home. Their missions were steady and relentless, a constant rhythm that maintained stability across volatile regions. In this environment, the F-14 cemented its identity not only as a technological marvel, but as the Tomcat matured within the fleet. Its reputation grew not only from constant training, but from the pressure of real-world encounters at the height of the Cold War. The Pacific and the North Atlantic became the F-14's hunting ground, regions where Soviet long-range aircraft pushed boundaries and tested American resolve. These missions were not open combat, but they were far from peaceful. They were tense, silent negotiations carried out through flight paths, wing movements, and the unblinking stare of crews separated only by thick cockpit glass. The Tomcat often reached its targets first, intercepting Soviet bombers long before they approached the carrier group. Its AWG-9 radar extended far across the ocean, scanning for threats that could endanger the fleet. When the Tomcat pulled alongside a bear or a badger, the message was unmistakable. "You are seen, and you will not pass." These intercepts sharpened discipline, but also revealed challenges. The TF-30 engines, originally designed for another aircraft, had limitations. At high angles of attack, or during abrupt throttle changes, they could stall with little warning. Pilots learned to manage power carefully, avoiding sudden movements that could provoke engine issues. Despite this, the Tomcat remained reliable and strong. Maintenance crews worked tirelessly, learning every bolt and panel, ensuring each aircraft was ready for the next launch. The relationship between aircrew and maintainers became essential, built on trust, skill, and shared responsibility. The aircraft demanded respect from all who worked on it, and it earned it through its remarkable performance. Throughout the late 70s and early 80s, tactics evolved to harness the Tomcat's strengths. Training integrated surface ships, airborne early warning aircraft, and electronic warfare assets into a layered defense. In this structure, the Tomcat played the leading role. Its radar range extended the fleet's awareness hundreds of miles. Its speed allowed it to respond to threats before they became dangerous. Its presence alone deterred hostile intentions. Pilots and RIOS trained in multi-aircraft coordination, simulated large raids, and honed reactions to ambiguous radar contacts in international airspace. They understood the stakes of every launch, but the Tomcat's story would not be complete without the Gulf of Sidra. Rising tensions brought American and Libyan forces into frequent proximity. Libyan fighters often shadowed U.S. patrols, and Tomcat crews monitored them closely. These encounters carried the risk of sudden escalation. Pilots studied Libyan tactics, memorized rules of engagement, and prepared for split-second decisions. In August 1981, two Libyan Su-22s approached aggressively. One fired first. The Tomcat crews executed defensive maneuvers and responded instantly. Two Sidewinder missiles launched, striking both Libyan aircraft. The engagement lasted seconds, but it displayed the Tomcat's precision and the crew's discipline. Another confrontation came in 1989, when MiG-23s approached a carrier group. The MiGs repeatedly attempted to gain advantage. After numerous warnings, they pressed closer, eventually locking onto the Tomcats. The Americans responded with Sparrow and Sidewinder missiles, downing both aircraft. Again, the Tomcat demonstrated that its training and systems could be relied upon in real combat. These were not victories of ego, but demonstrations of readiness, proving the aircraft's role in protecting the fleet. Beyond combat, the Tomcat served as a vital reconnaissance platform. With the TARPS pod, it captured detailed images during dangerous overflights. Pilots flew low and fast into contested regions to photograph missile sites, troop movements, and airfields. These missions demanded nerve and precision. A single mistake could expose the jet to enemy fire, yet crews completed them repeatedly with exceptional skill. Carrier operations remained among the most demanding tasks in aviation. Tomcats launched in any weather, day or night, from decks that pitched and rolled with the sea. Catapult launches hurled the aircraft into the sky with brutal force. Night recoveries required flawless judgment as pilots guided the jet toward a moving deck illuminated by only a handful of lights. Every landing felt like a test of nerve, skill, and trust in the aircraft. By the mid-80s, the F-14 was more than a weapon system. It was a symbol of American presence, a guardian over carriers deployed across the world. With every launch and recovery, every intercept and patrol, the Tomcat deepened its legacy as one of the most capable and iconic aircraft ever to fly from a carrier. Its crews felt profound respect for it, understanding its strengths, managing its limits, and trusting it through every moment of danger. As the Tomcat moved into the late 80s and early 90s, its role continued to expand. The Cold War was entering its final unpredictable years, and American carrier groups operated in regions where tensions shifted quickly. The Tomcat had already proven itself as a fighter and interceptor, but now it began to evolve into something even more versatile. Technology advanced, missions changed, and new demands emerged. The aircraft that once focused primarily on long-range defense was now being adapted for precision strike and complex reconnaissance. The world was changing, and the Tomcat adapted with it. One of the most significant shifts came with the introduction of the Lantern targeting system. By integrating this pod onto the Tomcat, crews gained the ability to identify and designate ground targets with remarkable accuracy. The aircraft that had once been designed mainly for intercept missions could now conduct precision strikes, guiding laser-directed munitions in real combat. This transformation expanded the Tomcat's mission, set far beyond what Grumman originally envisioned. Pilots and radar officers trained to master the new system, adjusting to the demands of target designation, night operations, and strike coordination. For many crews, it felt like learning a second aircraft layered onto the first. The Tomcat, already complex and demanding, now carried even more systems requiring flawless cooperation between pilot and REO. During the Gulf War in 1991, Tomcats flew numerous missions over Iraq and Kuwait. Although they did not score air-to-air kills during the conflict, they performed essential roles in escort missions, combat air patrols, and reconnaissance. Their presence in the sky provided a protective umbrella for coalition aircraft. While newer fighters such as the F-14 played the primary air superiority role, the Tomcat served as a stabilizing force, patrolling vital air corridors and ensuring hostile aircraft could not interfere with coalition operations. TARP's missions continued as well, providing imagery critical for planning ground movements and strike routes. These reconnaissance flights were often flown at high speed and low altitude, pushing both the aircraft and crews to their limits. The Tomcat's strength and stability allowed it to endure these harsh conditions, reaffirming its place in the Navy's arsenal. Following the Gulf War, Tomcat squadrons participated in numerous operations enforcing no-fly zones over Iraq. Hours were spent on patrol, watching for violations, monitoring radar contacts, and responding to emerging threats. These missions were long and demanding. Crews managed fuel, navigation, and communication carefully while maintaining constant awareness of changing situations on the ground. In these years, the Tomcat functioned as both a deterrent and a watchdog. Its large radar footprint and powerful presence helped keep the skies stable and predictable in regions where uncertainty was common. The aircraft also participated in operations over the Balkans during the conflicts of the mid-1990s. Here, its new strike capabilities became essential. Lantern-equipped Tomcats conducted precision strikes against targets in Serbia and Kosovo. These missions required navigating difficult terrain, coordinating with other aircraft, and delivering munitions with pinpoint accuracy. The Tomcat performed admirably, demonstrating that even as newer fighters entered service, it still had a vital role to play. Pilots praised the stability of the aircraft during night operations, noting how the variable sweep wings and powerful avionics made it a steady platform in challenging conditions. By this point in its life, the F-14 had matured into a true multi-role platform. It remained a powerful air-to-air fighter, capable of intercepting threats at long range, but it also had become a capable strike aircraft, able to deliver precision weapons with accuracy rivaling newer jets. This evolution increased its value within the fleet, especially as global missions required greater flexibility. Carrier groups depended on the Tomcat's ability to switch roles from one day to the next. Combat air patrol in the morning, reconnaissance in the afternoon, precision strike at night. Yet even as the Tomcat thrived, the Navy began looking toward the future. New aircraft designs promised reduced maintenance requirements, improved fuel efficiency, and a streamlined approach to fleet operations. The Tomcat, although unmatched in performance, was expensive to maintain. Its airframe was strong, but its systems were intricate. Mechanics often spent countless hours inspecting hydraulic lines, radar components, and moving wing mechanisms. Still, those who worked on the aircraft felt pride in keeping such a legendary machine ready for flight. Every launch represented not just pilot skill, but the dedication of countless technicians who ensured the Tomcat remained a force in the sky. Through the final years of the 90s, the F-14 remained a symbol of American naval power. It stood on carrier decks around the world, wings folded, waiting for the next call. Whether patrolling over the Persian Gulf, stationed in the Mediterranean, or conducting operations in the Pacific, the Tomcat carried its legacy into every mission. It had become more than a fighter. It was a legend shaped by decades of service, conflict, innovation, and the determination of the men and women who flew and supported it. As the Tomcat entered the 2000s, its final chapter began to take shape, though not through any decline in capability. In many ways, the F-14 was performing better than ever. Its upgraded avionics, refined tactics, and new mission sets had turned it into a versatile platform able to carry out precision strikes, reconnaissance, and air superiority missions with equal confidence. But the realities of modern naval aviation were shifting. Budgets, maintenance costs, and logistics drove the Navy toward aircraft that were easier to sustain. The Tomcat, with its powerful but maintenance-intensive airframe, faced an uncertain future. Even so, squadrons continued to fly it with the same dedication and pride that had defined its service for decades. After the events of September 11, 2001, Tomcat squadrons deployed to support operations in Afghanistan. The aircraft flew long missions across rugged terrain, often dropping precision-guided munitions in support of ground forces. The Lantern system allowed crews to identify targets in the mountains with remarkable clarity, guiding weapons accurately even in complex environments. These missions required endurance and precision. Pilots and RIOS spent long hours in the cockpit, managing fuel, navigation, sensor systems, and weapons delivery while coordinating with ground units far below. The Tomcat demonstrated exceptional reliability, proving once again that even as newer aircraft entered service, it remained invaluable in the field. As operations expanded into Iraq in the early 2000s, Tomcats were again at the forefront. Their combination of range, payload, and precision capability made them highly effective during the opening stages of the conflict. They flew a wide range of missions: strike, close air support, reconnaissance, and air patrol. The aircraft delivered laser-guided bombs and performed real-time assessments of battle damage. RIOs used their sensors to provide ground commanders with updated information, helping shape decisions during rapidly changing situations. These missions highlighted the full evolution of the Tomcat from a pure interceptor to a true multi-role platform. Still, the aircraft's future was limited by rising maintenance demands. The variable sweep wings, advanced radar, and older engines required extensive inspection and repair. Mechanics worked tirelessly to keep the jets airworthy, often spending many hours of maintenance for each hour of flight. Their dedication ensured that the aircraft remained ready for deployment, even as parts became scarce and systems showed their age. Every squadron took pride in preserving the legacy of the Tomcat, knowing they were supporting one of the most admired aircraft in naval history. By 2005, the Navy had made the decision to retire the F-14. The F/A-18EF Super Hornet would take its place as the fleet's primary strike fighter. The announcement brought mixed emotions. Pilots respected the capabilities of the newer aircraft, but many felt a deep sense of loss. The Tomcat was more than a machine. It was a symbol of naval aviation, a towering presence on the flight deck, a guardian during long patrols, a companion through tense confrontations and difficult landings. Its silhouette represented decades of American air power, and its legacy was written in thousands of intercepts, reconnaissance missions, and combat operations across the world. During its final deployments, the Tomcat continued to perform flawlessly. The last squadrons maintained the same high standards, knowing their time with the aircraft was limited. Pilots savored each launch, each catapult shot, each afterburner climb. Rios continued to master the radar and sensor systems, capturing imagery and coordinating missions with the precision that had defined their careers. Deck crews worked with the same intensity and pride, knowing they were part of the aircraft's last chapter. Every launch from the carrier deck carried a sense of ceremony. Every landing felt significant. The final flight of the F-14 in U.S. Navy service took place in 2006. Crowds gathered to witness the aircraft return one last time. As the Tomcat taxied across the runway, its wings swept outward, engines humming with the familiar sound that had marked an era. Pilots and crew members stood by with mixed feelings: pride in the aircraft's achievements, sadness at its retirement, and gratitude for having served with a machine that had shaped their lives. The Tomcat came to a stop, engines powering down slowly until the cockpit fell silent. A chapter of naval aviation closed. Yet the Tomcat's story did not end there. Iran, which had purchased the aircraft before the 1979 revolution, continued to operate the F-14 under challenging conditions. Their engineers and technicians maintained the aircraft with limited resources, keeping it flying long after most believed it impossible. Through ingenuity and determination, they preserved a fleet that remained operational for decades. These aircraft stood as evidence of the Tomcat's durability and design strength, surviving in conditions far removed from the American carrier decks where the aircraft first made its name. By the time the last U.S. Tomcat flew, its legacy had already been secured. It would be remembered not only for its combat performances and technological innovations, but also for the emotional connection it inspired in those who flew and supported it. The aircraft represented an era of naval aviation defined by precision, power, and purpose. Its presence in the sky had shaped global events, deterred adversaries, and protected countless sailors at sea. Even in retirement, the Tomcat lived on in memory, in stories, and in the impact it left on every pilot who sat beneath its canopy. As the years passed and the Tomcat settled into legend, its influence continued to shape how aviators thought about flying, combat, and the evolving role of naval aviation. Even newer pilots, trained on the latest aircraft, spoke with admiration for the F-14 and the era it represented. For many, the Tomcat symbolized a time when raw power, mechanical complexity, and human skill blended into a single, formidable machine. The aircraft demanded respect from all who encountered it, whether on the deck of a carrier or preserved in a museum hangar. Those who had the opportunity to fly it often described the experience as transformative. They recalled the feel of the jet accelerating under full afterburner, the sensation of the wings sweeping back, and the immense awareness required to manage its systems during difficult missions. Even decades after its retirement, the memory of flying the Tomcat remained vivid. The design philosophy behind the F-14 continued to influence modern aircraft development. Engineers studied its variable sweep wings, appreciating how the mechanism allowed the aircraft to excel in both low-speed handling and high-speed performance. Though modern jets increasingly relied on fixed-wing designs supported by advanced flight computers, the Tomcat's sweep system remained a remarkable example of mechanical ingenuity. Its large radar and sensor suite also offered lessons in how to integrate long-range detection with multiple weapon systems. Many of the principles refined in the Tomcat helped shape future radar and missile technologies, forming a link between past innovation and modern capability. The Tomcat's cultural impact extended beyond the world of engineering and military service. It became a symbol of determination and precision, representing the skill required to operate high-performance aircraft from the demanding environment of a carrier deck. The jet appeared in countless images, posters, and documentaries, each one reinforcing its status as one of the most recognizable fighters in aviation history. Artists captured its dynamic shape in paintings, digital art, and models. Aviation enthusiasts collected memorabilia, restored cockpit sections, and built full-scale replicas to preserve the aircraft's presence in their communities. One of the most significant aspects of the Tomcat's legacy was its role in shaping public interest in naval aviation. Young viewers who saw the aircraft in motion, whether through footage, demonstrations, or stories, often developed an interest in aviation careers. Recruits entering flight school sometimes cited the Tomcat as their earliest inspiration. Though they would go on to train in newer aircraft, the influence of the Tomcat guided their aspirations. In this way, the aircraft continued to serve long after it left operational service. Its presence at air shows further preserved this legacy. During the final years of its service, crowds gathered to watch the Tomcat perform high-speed passes, sharp turns, and controlled climbs that showcased its agility. The sound of its engines, deep, thunderous, and unmistakable, left a lasting impression. Even after its retirement, occasional appearances of preserved airframes during static displays kept the aircraft in the public eye. Former pilots shared their experiences with visitors, describing the challenges and rewards of flying a jet that demanded full attention every moment it was in the air. These interactions allowed the public to connect directly with the human stories behind the aircraft, deepening appreciation for its service. In naval aviation communities, the Tomcat remained a point of pride. Training squadrons displayed patches and photographs honoring its history. Ready rooms kept framed images of the aircraft from significant missions, ensuring new aviators understood the lineage they were joining. Even as modern jets flew overhead, the Tomcat maintained a presence through the stories carried by those who had lived its history. These stories were not merely technical accounts. They were reflections on teamwork, danger, and the powerful bond between pilot and aircraft. The emotional connection to the Tomcat extended to deck crews as well. They remembered the heat of the exhaust as the aircraft taxied past, the vibration of the deck as it launched, and the intense coordination required to manage multiple aircraft during high-tempo operations. For them, the Tomcat symbolized a period when the carrier deck was defined by the roar of its engines and the silhouette of its sweeping wings. Whether guiding the jet into position, attaching the catapult, or clearing the deck, every crew member contributed to the aircraft's legacy. In squadrons that transitioned to newer aircraft, the departure of the Tomcat marked a significant shift. Pilots trained in the F-14 found the newer jet efficient and advanced, but they also felt a sense of nostalgia for the unique challenges of the Tomcat. Discussions in ready rooms often returned to stories of demanding missions, close calls, or humorous moments that only Tomcat crews fully understood. These shared memories created a bond across generations, linking those who served in different eras but shared the same commitment to protecting the fleet. By preserving its history, pilots, crews, and enthusiasts ensured the Tomcat remained more than just a retired aircraft. It became a symbol of the dedication and expertise that define naval aviation. The jet represented the courage required to launch from a moving deck in high seas, the precision needed to intercept threats across vast distances, and the responsibility placed on those who served at the forefront of national defense. Through its design, service, and legacy, the F-14 continued to inspire respect, admiration, and a deep sense of connection among those who understood what it meant to fly or support such a remarkable machine. As time moved forward and the Tomcat transitioned from an active fleet defender to a historical icon, its legacy became defined not only by its missions, but by the people who carried its story into the present. The aircraft's history lived in the voices of pilots who trained through long nights, RIOs who managed complex radar systems under immense pressure, and maintainers who worked tirelessly to keep the jet flight ready. Each individual experience contributed a thread to the fabric of the Tomcat's legend, a tapestry woven from decades of dedication, sacrifice, and pride. These stories captured the realities of service, the exhilaration of high-speed passes, the constant vigilance of long patrols, and the moments of quiet reflection that came between missions at sea. The Tomcat's significance also endured in museums where preserved airframes stood as reminders of a dynamic era in aviation history. Visitors approached the aircraft with a sense of awe as they took in the broad wings, the powerful stance, and the hardened surfaces that bore marks of years spent on carrier decks. Veterans often paused before these static displays, recalling the roar of engines and the intense focus required during launches and recoveries. For younger generations, the Tomcat represented a tangible connection to stories told by parents, grandparents, and instructors who had experienced the aircraft firsthand. Its presence fostered curiosity and respect, ensuring that the values and lessons of its era would be passed on. As aviation technology continued to evolve, the Tomcat remained a benchmark for performance and design. Engineers studied its structure and systems, learning from its successes and challenges. The aircraft had been ahead of its time in several areas, and its innovations helped guide the development of modern fighters. Though new jets carried more advanced avionics, stealth features, and digital integration, the foundation laid by the Tomcat continued to influence how designers approached the balance between range, agility, and firepower. In this way, the aircraft remained part of the ongoing evolution of air combat capability. Its cultural impact persisted as well. The Tomcat appeared in documentaries, books, and countless pieces of artwork, each representation capturing a different aspect of its character. Enthusiasts restored cockpit sections and collected components, building personal tributes to the aircraft's history. Aviation groups organized gatherings where former crew members shared stories that brought the aircraft back to life for listeners. These exchanges helped preserve the human element behind the machine. The experiences, emotions, and camaraderie formed in the demanding world of naval aviation. International interest in the Tomcat endured, particularly due to the aircraft's continued presence in Iran. Analysts and aviation enthusiasts followed the rare glimpses of operational Iranian Tomcats, fascinated by how crews had managed to keep them flying despite immense logistical challenges. These surviving aircraft demonstrated a resilience that few fighters of their era could match. They served as a reminder of the robust engineering and craftsmanship that had defined the Tomcat's original construction, reinforcing its reputation as a powerful and enduring machine. In the broader story of aviation, the Tomcat represented a turning point. It bridged the gap between earlier generations of analog fighters and the increasingly digital world of modern aircraft. It combined brute mechanical strength with advanced radar and missile systems, requiring both instinct and technical expertise from the crews who flew it. This duality made the Tomcat distinctive, an aircraft where human skill was essential, yet Technology amplified that skill to extraordinary levels. Pilots respected its power and complexity, while Rios mastered the sensors and weapons that transformed it into a long-range interceptor unmatched in its time. The emotional bond formed between the Tomcat and its crews carried into retirement. Pilots described how the aircraft taught them discipline, patience, and confidence. Rios spoke of the intense teamwork required to manage targets, threats, and communication during missions. Maintainers remembered the long hours in harsh conditions, driven by commitment to keeping the aircraft safe and ready. Each connection helped preserve the aircraft's spirit, ensuring that it remained alive not only in history, but in the memories of those who served with it. Ultimately, the legacy of the F-14 Tomcat rests not just in its technological achievements or combat record, but in the generations it inspired. It represented an era defined by determination and precision, challenging those who flew and maintained it to rise to the demands of the mission. Its silhouette became a symbol of protection for sailors on distant seas and a beacon of inspiration for future aviators. As time continues forward, the Tomcat stands as a testament to the strength of innovation, the importance of teamwork, and the enduring impact of an aircraft that earned its place among the greatest fighters ever to take to the sky.